Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SI Talk. Bin nach wie vor in Vancouver und bin jetzt beim Panoro Conflict of Interest. Ich bin Aktionär. Der Luquman wird uns jetzt die neuesten Daten geben, was die Company so gemacht hat. Es war ein sehr spannendes Interview, was wir vor 4 Monaten ungefähr gemacht haben, September, Oktober, um die Zeit. Und ich bin eben gespannt, was sich da Neues getan hat. Look, thank you to have time for me, and I said in my German introduction, I have a conflict of interest, I'm a shareholder, so everybody must know that I have this conflict. Our last interview is around 4 months ago. It was in September or beginning of October, I don't know exactly the date, but around 4 months. So what's happened in the last 4 months with the company?
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll break it down by projects. We've got 4 active projects in Peru. 2 of them, the activity began really last year. So let's start with our most advanced project, our largest project, which is Cotabambas. Late last year, we had the approval of our environmental impact assessment at the Cotabambas project to expand our exploration area. If you recall, the Cotabambas project has about a 722 million ton resource. It has a preliminary economic assessment completed on it that includes about 500 million tons of that resource in the mine plan. We have a streaming agreement with Wheaton Precious Metals on that project. So our focus on the project has been to drill areas that will improve and expand the economics on the project. So part of that strategy was to drill in a couple of new areas. And last year we completed drilling in 2 areas, which are the Maria Jose and the Petra David areas. We drilled a few thousand meters in those 2 areas, which are within either immediately adjacent to the resource or within a kilometer of the resource, but all within the area that we call Cluster 1. So we finished drilling in Cluster 1 last year, and then had made completed an environmental study to expand the drilling permit into the area that we call Cluster 2. Mm-hmm. So late last year, we got the approval for the exploration work in Cluster 2, and we started a geophysics program in one part of Cluster 2, which is the Chaupec target. Mm-hmm. So we are just completing now a geophysics program over the Chaupec target in Cluster 2. The induced polarization survey and the MAG survey is complete, and I was on site last week, and we were just completing the gravity survey, which should now be complete. The field work will be complete. So that's been our focus over the last few months, is to complete that geophysics program at the Chaupec target in Cluster 2 in order to define the drill targets for the drill program in Cluster 2. So we expect that over the next 1 or 2 weeks we'll finish analyzing the results from the geophysics and then start the drilling program in February at the Chaupec target in Cluster 2. The area, the Chaupec target, is an area that we have mapped and surface sampled large areas of skarn mineralization with very high grades, with grades at 1-2% and above copper, with areas that have copper grades that are very, very high. So we've mapped skarn outcrop along 3 kilometers of length, and we've focused in on the northern 1 kilometer section of Chaupec for the geophysics, and that's where we expect to start drilling here in February. So at Cotabambas, it's been the completion of the geophysics program, which is now done, and we'll start the drilling program after having gotten the approval for the expanded environmental assessment. We've also completed the community agreements and the surface rights agreements over the Chaupec area that will allow us to start drilling. With the Wheaton Precious Metals agreement, also in September of last year, we received the scheduled almost $1 million Canadian payment from Wheaton Precious Metals. and we expect to get their next payment here in March.
Okay.
So money's coming in that's funding the exploration programs at Cotabambas now that the geophysics is complete. At the Antilla project, that's our second project, has approximately a 400 million ton resource. Last year we completed the preliminary economic assessment on the project, including a mine plan for the 120 million tons approximately of secondary enriched mineralization, where the PEA has shown that it's a very strong economics on mining this near surface enriched zone and leaching it. Mm-hmm. And the second half of last year we worked on with consultants in Peru defining the timelines and costs to move the project from preliminary economic assessment into bankable feasibility. Mm-hmm. Proposing to skip a full pre-feasibility study, but doing some gap analysis to identify the priority areas for the feasibility. Proposing to skip the pre-feas study because most all of the 120 million tons that's in the mine plan at Antilla is already at the higher indicated category, and the PEA costs, operating and capital costs, came from in-country contractor estimates. So we felt that the PEA level, the strength of the PEA justified skipping a full pre-feas and moving into feasibility. So that was work completed late last year, and so budgets and timelines to feasibility. Plus we did some additional work on the Antilla project to look at the impacts of the additional metallurgical testing that we completed last year, mm-hmm. which indicated that the recoveries could be slightly higher than the recoveries that were included in the PEA, and identifying some of the upsides to the Antilla project, which in summary have shown us that with the additional recoveries, there's another 50 million tons of secondary enriched material that could make it into the mine plan. So it could be 170 million tons, which could justify an increase in the throughput from a 20,000 ton a day mine plan to up to a 35,000 ton a day mine plan. So that's what we've done at the Antilla project, is looked at the upside, looked at the cost and timelines to bankable feasibility, and we've started to work with some of our financial advisors in order to define the funding plan for moving the mm-hmm. Antilla project through bankable feasibility and then beyond into development. It's a smaller scale project than Cotabambas, so we think it should be on a quicker timeline through to development. And because of its very low cost, less susceptible to some of the downside that the markets are experiencing right now because of the turbulence in copper price mm-hmm. resulting from different macroeconomic issues. So we're working on that plan to define Antilla. That plan likely will include a partner mm-hmm. on the Antilla project. And the structure of an agreement on the Antilla project, we envision including a component that will help fund our Cotabambas project through feasibility as well. So that's what we're trying to do on the Antilla project, is leverage that good mid-sized project into all of the future funding for both Antilla and Cotabambas, so that we can avoid any future dilution through mm-hmm. equity financing. So that's a key strategic objective that we have. And we look at the outcome for that this plan at Antilla optimistically, notwithstanding the fact that equity markets, because of global macro issues and their impacts on commodities, specifically copper prices, has been tough over the last 6 months. Yeah. But we think that Peru remains a very attractive jurisdiction for investment. Copper, the mid and long-term prognosis for copper still looks very good, notwithstanding some of the turbulence we're going through right now. So we're optimistic that we'll put something together there, and then that will then define also for our Cotabambas project our timelines 2 pre-fees and feasibility studies on Cotabambas. Clearly, so we want to complete some of the additional drilling at Cotabambas in order to rationalize some of the infrastructure and throughput ideas on the Cotabambas project, because there's still some big exploration upside there that we'd like to tie together before moving too far ahead on Cotabambas. But so those 2 plans are linked. The third project, early stage project, Cusiorco, that last year we sold to Hudbay. The project is located within a few kilometers of the Hudbay's Constancia mine. Hudbay has made in January their milestone payment to us of almost $700,000 US as a result of them completing their community agreements for the Cusiorco project. So as Hudbay advances with the work there, there's 3 more milestone payments that are payable to Panoro that we're hopeful that during the course of this year we start to get as well.
Do you have also a royalty included, or NSR or something?
Correct. We have a 2% royalty. So
Okay.
What we get out of the sale of the asset to Hudbay was a total of 5 million US, 6.5 million Canadian dollars, plus a 2% royalty. And that project is located very close to the Constancia mine. We have a second project now located very close to the Constancia mine, which is Humamantata, which late last year, September, October, I think it was October, we completed a joint venture agreement with JOGMEC in Japan, the Japanese oil and gas mineral exploration company, whereby they will invest up to $5 million US in order to earn up to a 60% interest on the project. So we last year completed the planning with JOGMEC on our first 3-year investment program. So Panoro, we're the operators on the project, and the funding is coming from JOGMEC. And so we, together with JOGMEC, approved the first year's spending. Roughly it will be $3 million over $3 million US over as little as 20 months, focused on mapping, sampling, geophysics, and defining the drill program at the Humamantata project. So the budgets have been approved, the permitting work has begun, the environmental work has begun. We have 1 community at the Humamantata project and a number of private landowners. We have agreement with the private landowners, and in February we'll be presenting at the community meeting our plans, and we're optimistic that we should have a community agreement in February as well, which will then kick off all of the field work at the Humamantata project. So that gives us, between Humamantata and Cusiorco, 2 projects within a few kilometers of the Constancia mine, where we own either a royalty or a minority interest in the projects, but money that's being invested by our partners. So that's now gives us 4 copper projects being advanced at different levels in Peru.
Do you working? I know exactly when the old Panoro take over the whole Peruvian thing, there was a lot more project.
Correct.
Do you working on some other similar deals like JOGMEC with other projects?
We have, you're quite right, in 2007 we acquired a large package of projects all in the south of Peru. The 2 advanced were Antilla and Cotabambas,
That's right,
and we've been moving those ahead. And through 2013, 2014, we did a lot of our own work at some of these other early stage projects in order to scope them out and decide what the potential might be, what the investment plans might be. And really since 2017 have started to look at potential partners for some of these other early stage projects. So we have 3 other projects that again are in the same region of the country that are ready for exploration work, and we remain open to potential partnerships on those other assets as well. However, I mean, right now we've got 4 that are advanced. We're a small company. We have a very small head office here in Vancouver. Most of the rest of our team is in Peru. But we do have some internal limitations on how many different projects we can manage at the same time. In an ideal world, there's 3 other projects that we have ready that we'd like to keep for a next phase of early stage exploration focus of our own team, because we think Antilla and Cotabambas are quite far advanced, and there'll be I think some strategic shifts on how we deal with those projects within the next 12 to 24 months. But we'd like there's 3 other projects that are ready, and we'll be opportunistic on potential partnerships on those 3 projects if the right entity comes to us, that's well financed, very credible, like Habt is, like JOGMEC is. We won't say no to good opportunities like that. But for the time being, we're kind of focused on these 4 assets.
So to summarize, this means Cotabambas going forward. You cluster 1 and cluster 2. You're working especially on cluster 2 this year for the drill program first. Then do it this way. Antilla is you're working on it, on the new study, But you think that you will partner this with other bigger company or something. But Antilla is a little bit smaller than Cotabambas. Then the third is the deal with Habt. So that's on Habt, what they are doing.
Correct, they're the operators.
They are the operators. And the fourth, that's new for me, is the JOGMEC deal. That they must spend 5 million on the project. JOGMEC, I think, is a very good partner, very potential partner. So they have enough.
Yeah, that's an important thing perhaps to emphasize a little bit, that JOGMEC is a Japanese state-owned enterprise that has the objective of investing in early-stage assets and identifying projects that the large Japanese mining houses like Sumitomo and Marubeni and the others, that they could become interested in. So JOGMEC makes the early stage investment, identifies a good project, which then they sell their share of to one of these large Japanese houses. So I think it's JOGMEC is well-funded, a credible organization, but it also gives us access into some of these large Japanese mining companies.
Great. So, and the fifth is that you have exploration-ready targets out of your portfolio in the south, but this is not high priority. But if anybody comes, that makes sense for Panoro to do a deal, then you will do a deal. And the good thing is, funding is at the moment not the problem. You get from Wheaton Precious Metals, you have a deal, I think that was last year, or?
2016 we signed it.
16, so that you get milestone payments, and funding should not be a problem for your whole work. So that's mean the dilution on us, on shareholders, is nearly limited.
Correct. Yeah, we have, the funding in place for this year is Wheaton Precious Metals payments. We have then milestone payments coming from Habt, and then of course JOGMEC's funding of the Huma Matata project. So our funding for this year is already in place, and through our efforts on the Antilla project, we expect to define the further funding of Antilla and Cotabambas through pre-fees and feasibility studies.
Sounds like a busy year.
It will hopefully be a busy year, and optimistic that during the year some of the macroeconomic turbulence settles down a little bit. But nevertheless, as an exploration company, we have to be cautious. So we'll be investing into our projects, but investing cautiously. And as the market changes and reacts, be prepared to accelerate investments if the conditions warrant.
That means also when the copper price will move upwards will help you also for this.
Yeah, that's what we need to be ready for. A year ago, a little over a year ago, copper was 310, 320, 330, and then it fell. It dribbled all of last year. In the middle of last year, it dropped quite significantly. But that doesn't change the supply-demand fundamentals for copper looking out in the medium and long term. And we see that the larger commodity houses, their long-term forecasts for copper price are still above $3 a pound. I'm reading some of the forecasts, even for 2019, there are still forecasts for an average copper price during 2019 of over $3 a pound, meaning that we're sitting at $269, $270 right now, meaning that somewhere during the course of this year, copper has to be averaging something above $3 a pound. So the fundamentals are still strong for us, but of course we have to kind of live through the turbulence and plan our investment priorities according to what the outlook is looking like right now, because as you indicated, potential dilution is something that our shareholders and the company were very sensitive to. And we'll be looking for alternatives to leverage the work that we've done on our existing projects to raise financing for future studies that doesn't require equity financing.
I think this is a very good endpoint. Thank you for the update. Ja, was gibt's Neues beim Unternehmen? Im Prinzip arbeiten Sie an 4 Fronten. Cotobambas kennen wir, das ist das größte Projekt, da haben Sie mehrere Sachen identifiziert. Oben ein großes Skarngebiet, das sehr hochgradig ist, in dem Sie sehr viel arbeiten. Sie haben aber auch noch Cluster 1 und Cluster 2 identifiziert, wo Sie daran arbeiten. Letztes Jahr auch gebohrt, Cluster 2 wird vorbereitet, gerade auch von den ganzen geophysischen Arbeiten, damit Sie dort dementsprechend weiterkommen und ein größeres Paket darstellen können, denn das ist momentan eher ein großes Paket, sage ich mal, und das kann noch deutlich oder es hat deutliches Explorationspotenzial. Das zweite ist Antillia-Projekt, das ist kleiner, allerdings auch feiner sozusagen, und dort arbeiten sie natürlich dran auch, um das quasi in den Bereich der Produktion zu bringen, allerdings mit einem Partner. Also, und da müssen sie natürlich ihre Arbeit noch weiterentwickeln, mehr Studien bringen, um das dementsprechend voranzubringen, aber das ist eigentlich das Ziel, auch das mit einem Partner zu machen, das allerdings auch denen eine Möglichkeit gibt, einer Cotobambas damit auch zu finanzieren. Das dritte ist, sie haben einen Deal mit Habt. Das ist letztes Jahr, glaube ich, unterschrieben worden, letztes Jahr unterschrieben worden. Da kommen Milestone Payments rein, das $700.000, glaube ich, haben sie dort gekriegt im Jänner, und da kommen noch mehrere Milestone Payments und dort kommt es 2% NSA. Und was neu ist, sie haben mit JOGMEC, das ist eine japanische staatliche Organisation, die in Startprojekte investiert für die japanische Industrie, um dies sozusagen Projekte vorzubereiten, damit die japanische Industrie dann noch quasi in diese Projekte einsteigt. Und die investieren dort 5 Millionen, das finde ich relativ viel für ein Projekt, das auch in der Nähe von der Habt-Mine ist. Und ja, das finde ich extrem spannend, denn 5 Millionen steht natürlich Ihnen als Operator zur Verfügung, dass Sie dann dementsprechend weiter vorantreiben. Was auch noch spannend ist, Sie haben damals, ja, wie Sie dieses Projekt übernommen haben in Peru, ja viele Projekte übernommen, und da gibt es auch noch viele andere Projekte. Da haben Sie Arbeit 2013, 2014 gemacht. Sie haben 3 weitere Projekte identifiziert, und wenn dort ein richtiger Partner kommen würde, dann würden die das auch mit einem Partner machen, wobei jetzt momentan sind Sie mit diesen 4 Projekten ausgelastet, und deswegen hat das nicht die höchste Priorität. Was für uns allerdings als Aktionäre hohe Priorität hat, ist Dilution, also die Verwässerung unseres Aktienkapitals, und das ist durch Deals mit Wheaton Precious Metals, allerdings auch mit Habt deutlich limitiert, weil die ihre Payments-Zahlungen machen müssen und dadurch das Geld kommt, damit Panoro Geld hat, ihre Projekte voranzubringen. Und natürlich darf man JOGMEC nicht vergessen, die ja auch dementsprechend Geld investieren und das der Organisation da unten in Peru zur Verfügung kommt. Und er sagt, sie haben sehr niedrige Overhead-Kosten, ein ganz kleines Büro in Vancouver, und von daher ist es natürlich klar, dass sie sehr effizient arbeiten. War ein spannendes Interview von Panoro. Für 2019 können wir einige Ergebnisse erwarten, vor allem von diesen 4 Projekten. Und damit wird es eigentlich, bin ich gespannt, was da so rauskommt. Und sie sind auch geleveraged mit dem Kupferpreis. Wenn der Kupfer natürlich steigt, ist natürlich das Interesse an Panoro auch deutlich höher. Ja, das war's von Panoro Jänner 2019 Vancouver. Tschüss und Baba. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.